Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazzo.
Hey friends, welcome. Thanks for tuning in and for sharing the podcast. And I've got a great guest today. Haven't caught up with this brother in quite some time, the Reverend Jim Harden. He's the CEO of CompassCare Pregnancy Services. Lives outside Rochester, New York with his wife and 10, you heard it right, 10 children. He pioneered the first measurable and repeatable medical model in the pregnancy center movement, helping over 650 centers nationwide become more effective at reaching more women and, more importantly, saving more babies from abortion. He's written extensively on medical ethics, executive leadership, and pro-life strategy. And he's the author of 3 books. One of them we're going to talk a little bit about today, just came out a couple months ago, at the end of last year. Are you pro-life for the right reasons? Christian First Principles and the Protection of Preborn Boys and Girls. Also, we're going to get an update. His facility, CompassCare, the pro-life medical office in Buffalo, was firebombed and destroyed in June of 2022. We'll get an update on that. Jim Harden, welcome to Worldview Matters. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me back. It's an honor.
All right. Well, it's great to catch up with you. Well, I learned that you have a book out and you've been really busy. You mentioned you're going through a lawsuit. What do you want to start with today?
Well, there's so much to talk about. In fact, we're managing through probably, I think this would be our 7th lawsuit that's ongoing. We're in the middle of being attacked. I in January of 2023, I predicted that on the lead up to the 2024 presidential election, that pregnancy centers and pro-life people would face increased attacks, and that would come not necessarily in the form of violence like we've experienced shortly after the illegal leak of the Dobbs case overturning Roe.
Yep.
But it would transform or transition into more of a weaponization of legislation and kind of attacks using, lawfare, if you will, where attorneys general, et cetera, would come after pro-life people using the legal system kind of like a legal buffet to attack the politically disfavored for political reasons. So that's exactly what's happening right now. That's one of the reasons why we're facing so many challenges. And the most recent lawsuit that we're facing is coming from New York Attorney General Letitia James. We just received notice to sue this morning. And now we have learned that there are at least 9 other pregnancy centers that have received a carbon copy version of this notice to sue, primarily alleging the same things that pro-abortion domestic terrorist group Jane's Revenge alleged when they firebombed us. And that is that we're lying to women, that we're misinforming women, that we're somehow harming women by helping them have their babies. And specifically, they're trying to attack our assistance to help women who reverse the effects of chemical abortion. They're saying that that's impossible, that it harms women, it doesn't work, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, all the peer-reviewed medical literature demonstrates that progesterone therapy that's been used for 50 years in the OB field to help women who have chronic miscarriage problems actually works in the presence of chemical abortion. If a woman changes her mind, if we can catch her within 72 hours, we can reverse the effects of mifepristone, which is this very dangerous chemical abortion drug that was deregulated by the Biden administration's FDA.
Now, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know since Roe v. Wade was overturned, a lot of people think, abortion, there are fewer abortions now, and that's not the case at all,
no.
In part because of RU 486, and women can get it, they don't have to go to the doctor to get so what are your thoughts on that? The abortion's off the charts now.
Yeah, abortion's gone up 10% in 2023, which is and chemical abortion has gone up 20% in the same time frame. So what that means is chemical abortion, when Roe versus Wade was overturned, it fundamentally altered the business model of the abortion industry. It went from doing surgical abortion or chemical abortion in every state to, many states, 20 plus states are regulating it significantly, so that they would have to, encourage women to travel to places like New York or California to get abortions. We call it abortion tourism, or spoke it out using chemical abortion and send these drugs in the mail to women's homes in pro-life states, which, by the way, is illegal. According to the Comstock Act, originally passed in, I believe, 1871, but modified in 1971 and then again in 1994, it is illegal to ship anything, including a drug or some sort of paraphernalia or mechanism or device, across U.S. borders or state lines for the express purpose of abortion. That's happening right now all across the United States. Yeah. And if the Comstock Act were enforced by the Biden administration's DOJ, and by the way, Merrick Garland said he would not enforce the Comstock Act. It's not his job to determine which laws he's going to enforce and which ones he's not going to enforce. That's but right. If he did, it comes with a $250,000 fine per violation, okay, times triple damages for racketeering. You multiply that by 630,000, because that's how many chemical abortions took place last year, 630,000. And then multiply that by 5 years worth of statutory limitations, and you've got $2.4 trillion in damages. That's like 7% of the national debt. I mean, that would shut down the abortion industry altogether. I mean, all bets are off at that point. And I think that's one of the reasons why these pro-abortion politicians are pulling out all the stops, because if the law were enforced as it currently reads, abortion would go away overnight. And my hope is that somebody like, Donald Trump, well, if he gets elected, would actually enforce the laws of the land. And, unlike the Biden administration, which is literally pitting itself against the legislative branch as well as the judiciary.
Yeah, they gave Planned Parenthood a raise. They got them more taxpayer funding. I think $700 million now a year.
Nearly $750 million is going to the biggest abortion business on the planet, and they provide 40% of all U.S. abortions and 44% of all chemical abortions. Yeah,
and is their revenue around $2 billion a year?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's a behemoth. And by the way, that's just the United States. They're an international conglomerate.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So, by the way, we're talking with Reverend Jim Harden. The website is CompassCare.info. CompassCare.info. You've also got another website. Would you explain that, please?
Yeah, so CompassCare.info is our patient-facing website. CompassCare understands what women are going through. And if you know of somebody who's facing unplanned pregnancy and seriously considering abortion, have them go to that website. We serve patients all across the country through telecare. We can reach and serve women, within 24 seconds to reach her before the teleabortionist sends her these dangerous drugs in the mail. But also, there's another website called CompassCare Community, and that's more of our education-facing website. CompassCareCommunity.com. That's CompassCareCommunity.com. You get all sorts of updates about what CompassCare is doing to save women and babies from abortion, as well as protecting pregnancy centers from being shut down and silenced out of the public square.
I just wrote down, these terms that we're using now. What would our great grandparents think? I understand what you mean. You said earlier, abortion tourism. That's going across state lines to a state that will murder preborn babies in mothers' wombs if your state has a ban on abortion. Teleabortionist, meaning you can talk to someone on the phone and you can order the abortion pill. Am I missing anything?
That's exactly right. It's totally outside the bounds of medical ethics. They don't confirm the pregnancy. They don't locate the pregnancy in the uterus. There is no health history to indicate whether or not this woman should be receiving a drug that makes her bleed. There is no medical follow-up. If she experiences complications, she's told by the teleabortionist, whoever it is, to go to the emergency room and lie to the doctor, telling them that she's miscarrying. I mean, there's a fraud being perpetrated against women. Chemical abortion. A recent study came out saying 1 in 17 women who start the chemical abortion process end up in the emergency room with sepsis, hemorrhaging, undiagnosed ectopic pregnancy. Also, it is a disaster, and it is a fraud being perpetrated against women they're protecting the abortion industry. They're not protecting women. And what do they do? What do these pro-abortion politicians do that want to protect the abortion industry? This multi-billion-dollar abortion industry that gets them reelected. Well, they want to shut down all public pro-life activity, and they want to sue places like CompassCare, and that's what they're doing, for telling women the truth. They don't want women to know that the chemical abortion process can be reversed if it's caught early enough. They want to force women to continue the abortion that they've already started. This is not choice. Not about choice.
That's right.
This is about control.
And they avoid showing ultrasounds, right, or sonograms. Yeah. They don't do that for their purposes. Let's talk about the 1 in 17 women end up in urgent care or ER. Is that did you say that's due to the pill?
Yes, the chemical abortion pill, mifepristone. It's actually RU46 is a 2-drug regimen. The first drug is a progesterone blocker, and it ends up starving the baby, kills the baby. And the second drug is misoprostol, and that's a drug that was specifically designed for people that are on chronic pain medication to keep them from getting ulcers. But in the presence of a pregnant woman, it causes uterine contractions and expels the baby. Now, some, and this is terrible, but some abortionists just give women the misoprostol. And so they're delivering live babies, at all sorts of ages. They don't confirm. And the FDA is saying, well, you can't really give this drug after 10 weeks gestation, but they don't know how far along these women are. They just send these women these drugs. They don't care. And not to mention the fact that you've got places like New York that are stockpiling these drugs. New York City, Mayor Eric Adams has stockpiled 250,000 doses of mifepristone. New York Governor Kathy Hochul stockpiled 200,000 doses of misoprostol just in case the Supreme Court overturns the FDA's illegal approval of this drug. The FDA circumvented their own protocols for determining safety and efficacy on this drug back during the Clinton administration, and thousands of physicians filed a lawsuit. Now it's at the Supreme Court. They just heard oral arguments. What's going to happen? We expect a decision any day now about whether the Supreme Court is going to tell the FDA to go back and do their job and take this thing off the market. It's damaging women. It's killing women.
Yes, it is. And we don't hear those stories in the Marxist media. But Jim, we started off this podcast talking about the new lawsuit against CompassCare, Lawfare. We've talked about that a lot last year on this program, Lawfare in different cases for different reasons. But let's talk about injustice now. You were firebombed. Your offices were firebombed in June of 2022. Jane's Revenge took credit.
Yeah.
What was the update on that? Has there been any arrest, conviction? Please tell us there has been something.
Well, unfortunately, I wish I could tell you that there has been something. The only movement that we've seen is that the FBI 2 years later, around April 1st, April Fool's Day, put some billboards up saying that they're looking for information leading to an arrest. They put some billboards up, outdoor advertising. This is the extent of the FBI's forensic analysis is billboards. I mean, look, maybe they're doing something behind the scenes. I don't know, but results are everything, because the FBI has the best forensic technology known to man. They can find somebody, within hours or days if they want to. Yep. And Merrick Garland, before under oath before a Senate Judiciary Committee, saying, "Well, we can't find these people because they're clever. They do these things at night." You've got to be kidding me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's what he said. So it is laughable. But just look at the disparity between the arrests of peaceful pro-life people, the indictments of peaceful pro-life, 40 indictments of peaceful pro-life people since the illegal leak of the Dobbs case by the Department of Justice, okay, under FACE violations, Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. These people are singing hymns, they're praying, they're very compliant with the police when the police show up, but they're not violent criminals, but they're being indicted, tried, and now sentenced. And this one particular woman, potentially 11 years, $350,000 fines. This is a peaceful pro-life woman who's turning 88 years old now, and she actually was rescued out of a death camp after World War II in I want to say it was Yugoslavia, but she was 10 years old, and now she's facing prison time for expressing her First Amendment rights, using her voice to speak out on behalf of the voiceless preborn boys and girls. this is this. So 40 different indictments. Meanwhile, there have been 400 attacks on peaceful pro-life organizations like CompassCare.
Yep.
And count them, 3 indictments. And by the way, there was one guy who was part of the inaugural firebombing of a pro-life entity in Madison, Wisconsin on Mother's Day 2 years ago. He's a biochemist, corporate worker out of Madison, Wisconsin, in his 30s, and he was part of Jane's Revenge. He was one of 3. They caught him by using DNA evidence. There's 2 other accomplices. They did not charge him with an act of domestic terror. They did not charge him with conspiracy. The federal prosecutors gave him a lighter sentence for a lighter crime. He's going to be out in 5 years. He received no fines whatsoever. Think about that. And his private defense was paid for by a federal judiciary grant for the poor. What kind of world are we living in? This is not this is an indictment on the justice system. This kind of result demonstrates writ large to the world that the judiciary and the Justice Department under the Biden administration is being used as a bludgeon against the politically disfavored pro-life people.
Yep. This is, shades of the Obama administration. They were going after conservatives and Tea Party activists. And so we've seen a lot of injustice by our own system, the DOJ, and in this case, the Biden DOJ and FBI not investigating. As you said, they have, it's in their power to get results. But anyway, Jim, let's talk about your book. Are you pro-life for the right reasons? I want to make sure people know that it's available and people know where to get it. I have it here in front of me. It's on Amazon. Are you pro-life for the right reasons, Reverend Jim Harden? And is it on your website as well?
I believe you can find it on our website at CompassCareCommunity.com.
Okay.
But it's also, as you say, on Amazon. I just felt like the book needed to be written. There's a lot of good arguments for why people should be pro-life, but in a post-Roe America, those arguments, I think it's not just that we're in a post-Roe America, we're in a post-Christian America. And the arguments that we've used to convince people to be, why they should be pro-life, why everyone everywhere ought to be pro-life, assumed that the person you're talking to came to the conversation with the same core values about what it means to be human. About the same core values about the inherent value of human life, preborn as well as born. And all you would have to do is humanize the preborn baby. See, look, the baby's human, therefore you shouldn't end the baby's life. Well, we're in a post-Christian culture. We no longer share the same kind of Judeo-Christian principles about what it means to be human anymore. And so the traditional kind of arguments around the grotesque statistics of abortion, how pervasive it is, they don't seem to do much anymore. The concept of embryology, when human life begins scientifically, it doesn't seem to matter much anymore. And even experiential things like, well, I had a bad abortion experience, or I survived an abortion, or whatever. That's all fine and good, but those are all secondary reasons now. We've got to get back to the primary reason. We've got to help Christians deepen their understanding about why, who we are as people made in the image of God.
Yes.
And connect that back to the gospel. Because Jesus Christ, through the gospel and the first principles about with respect to the gospel, speak to why everyone everywhere should be pro-life. Jesus is God in the flesh, and therefore his blood is invaluable. It's priceless. And he assigned a value to humanity when he shed that blood on our behalf, and he stood in the gap for us, and became sin, nailed that sin to the cross, so that we could become his righteousness and have a standing before God the Father. And there, he became our good Samaritan. Thereby, he became our good Samaritan. He essentially condescended and gave us his voice, his resources, etc., to give us our lives back. But the good Samaritan, that story was told so that the lawyer who was trying to justify his unjust behavior against people he didn't like was told to say, look, you got to go and do likewise. True love is, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is partiality. It's me playing God, getting to decide who qualifies for my favor and who does not. And we don't have that. We're not God. And so it's incumbent upon Christians to communicate the truth about what it means to be human. We're made in God's image and designed to reflect him. And because he values humanity, because we're the crown of creation, we ought to respect and dignify each other. There is no place for a government or anybody to make a distinction about which humans qualify for protection under the law and which ones do not. Either everybody qualifies for protection under the law, or equality is just a shame. It's just a word we use to manipulate the masses.
Praise God for allowing the Reverend to come out there for a little bit and preach it. I wish we had more time, Jim. Thank you. We're talking about Imago Dei. We're talking about the truth, the biblical and the universal truth that every human life is created in his image and has value and is worth being protected and should be protected. But and we're fighting that battle. I on the description of your book over on Amazon, and I appreciate you staying in the fight. A lot of people, a lot of men with maybe weaker spines might have said, all right, my office was bombed. We're out. Let me just go on the cruise ship, the Christian cruise ship. But it says, to stand against systemic injustice requires courage and sacrifice. Why should anyone want to risk that level of discomfort, unpopularity, pain, arson, and even death threats? Why ought everyone, everywhere, be pro-life? We need an eternal perspective in America's moral midnight to keep us focused, a view empowered by the light of Christ. And now we're getting back to the spiritual foundation of things. We are so far off, Jim, and that's what I think I want to get your take on. So many people can justify murder because choice, because convenience, because I want a career, because whatever, I'm young, for whatever reason, because they don't value life, they don't have the biblical worldview. But even in the church, there's a biblical illiteracy that we haven't seen before, even in the pews and the comfy seats, whether that's the evangelical church or Catholic churches. And that's why the left can get away with, like the press secretary of the White House said, oh, Joe Biden's a committed Christian and he'll be celebrating Easter with his family. They get away with that because of our ignorance. And also recently, Biden makes the sign of the cross at a pro-abortion, event rally, supporting abortion with the sign of the cross. And then let me just read this to you. I'll shut up. Let you comment. Catholic Vote blasted Biden on Twitter saying, "This is vile. President Biden makes the sign of the cross at an abortion rally in Florida. You cannot be Catholic and support abortion. You cannot invoke God and promote death." Jim Harden, the only thing I will disagree with is the word cannot. You can, because millions of people are Christian or Catholic and support abortion. You should not be, if you believe the Bible and truth. There are people that can, that they are, right? So go ahead and share your thoughts.
Yeah, the problem that we're having right now with respect to the church in abortion is that there's a kind of a difficulty that the church has. They don't have a filter by which, a theological filter by which to understand the bioethical problems that are coming our way, constantly hitting us. And so the politicians attempt to co-opt Catholicism or Christianity and say, hey, look, you can be a Catholic or you can be a Christian and still be pro-abortion. Kamala Harris is the abortion czar. She's been going around saying you can keep your Christian faith and principles while at the same time being pro-abortion and voting for an pro-abortion candidate. She's trying to Christianize abortion. And same thing here with Joe Biden doing the sign of the cross. He's trying to Catholicize, if you will, abortion. And abortion is wrong always and everywhere, always has been. God has, through the law, taught us that preborn boys and girls are a class of person that should be the most protected. You see that in Leviticus, you see that in Exodus. If two men are fighting and they accidentally hit a woman, she causes her to miscarry, then it's eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, life for life, lex talionis. That's pretty big. That's a big deal. And that was just an accident. What happens if it's on purpose? Yeah. What happens if the injustice is being perpetrated on purpose and then celebrated? Well, that's a whole new level of injustice and oppression that is addressed in Scripture as well. And you can see it through 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel. The worst thing, when evil matures to its ultimate, you'll find the society killing its own children, causing their sons and daughters to pass through the fire, the Bible calls it. And that's what's happening in America today, and it's being celebrated. It is the greatest injustice in the history of mankind. And Christians are the ones who are supposed to have the prophetic voice and the prophetic action to speak against the injustice. We understand what life and death is. We understand what it means to be human. And God's going to hold all governments accountable, whether they believe God or not, because Jesus Christ is the King of Kings. It's a very political position, by the way.
Yeah. And by the way, Planned Parenthood has dwarfed anything that Adolf Hitler ever dreamed to do, and Planned Parenthood has dwarfed Molech, sacrificing babies to the god Molech in the Old Testament. And here we are in America with our own Holocaust. But before we let you go, Jim Harden, I forgot to ask you: did you ever get your security tapes back that had someone? Apparently it had someone that did the firebombing. And you handed them over to, was it the police or the FBI? We just have a minute left.
Yeah, we handed those tapes over to the police to get going on it, and the FBI got copies of it from the police. We had to file a lawsuit against the police department to get our own evidence back, so that we could give it to our private investigators to do the investigative work, because the FBI and DOJ weren't doing it. So yeah, we got it back. We won that lawsuit. Thankfully, that was it's been quite an interesting ride, as you know, and it's not over. So we've got a long uphill climb ahead of us, but it's so important that we do this work to save women and babies from the evils of abortion.
Amen, brother. And friends, right now you're watching, there's different people, I think, from 5 or 6 countries across the country. We hear from people. Pray for Jim Harden and CompassCare. The website, again, is CompassCareCommunity.com and CompassCare.info. The book on Amazon, Are You Pro-Life for the Right Reasons? Jim, we can't wait so long to get together and catch up again. Hopefully there'll be some newer developments with some good news. But thanks for your time today, sir. God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Oh, my goodness. It's a challenge to keep these to a half hour or less, friends, but hopefully it'll make you want more and go check out some of the resources they have, especially if you know someone that's in a crisis pregnancy or wants any information on abortion, the pill, and anything else. So go to the website there. Thanks again. That is CompassCare in New York. What a blessing. Thanks. Shout out to our sponsors, Patriot Mobile and Harbingers Daily. If you know someone that wants to sponsor the show, get in touch with our producer. Just send us an email, worldviewmatters@fpeusa.org, and he'll get right back to you. God bless you, and as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter.